The first alien ships broke formation at exactly 6 in the morning, Earth time. 200 Council vessels separated from the main fleet and began moving toward the blue planet. Their mission was simple. They would destroy the largest human cities first. Then, when the survivors were begging for mercy, the rest of the fleet would move in to complete the conquest. Ambassador Zethrak watched from his flagship with satisfaction. He had done this many times before. He knew exactly how it would go. The humans would panic. They would cry. They would offer anything to make the pain stop. By sunset, Earth would belong to the Council. Ambassador, his tactical officer, reported, "The attack wing is approaching Earth orbit. No resistance detected." "Of course not," Zethrak replied. "What could they possibly do? They have 40 ships against our thousands. This will be over before." He never finished the sentence. Space around the alien attack wing suddenly exploded with light. Ships appeared from nowhere. They came from behind asteroids. They rose from the shadows of the moon. They emerged from hiding spots that the Council had scanned a dozen times and found empty. 600 human warships filled the space between Earth and the alien fleet. "What is this?" Zethrak screamed. "Where did they come from?" Before anyone could answer, the human ships opened fire. The weapons were unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Beams of concentrated energy struck the alien shields and passed through them like they were made of paper. Missiles that should have been stopped by defensive systems slammed into holes and tore ships apart. In the first 30 seconds, 20 Council vessels were destroyed. On the bridge of the carrier USS Liberty, Captain Dennis Page watched the battle unfold. He was a calm man, with steady hands and a voice that never wavered, even when everything around him was chaos. "All wings, engage," he ordered. "Target their weapon systems first. Do not let them fire on Earth." His ships moved like wolves hunting deer. They did not fight in the straight lines that the Council expected. They swooped and turned and attacked from angles that should have been impossible. They fought together, covering each other, protecting each other. The Council ships tried to respond. They fired their massive weapons at the human fleet. But the human ships were too fast. They dodged and weaved, and the shots that should have destroyed them missed by inches. "How are they doing this?" Zethrak demanded. "Our weapons are superior. Our ships are stronger." His tactical officer worked frantically at his console. "Ambassador, their weapons are cutting through our shields. They are using a frequency that our defenses cannot block. It is as if they knew exactly how to hurt us." They did know. 60 years of studying that crashed ship had taught humanity everything they needed. They had learned how Council shields worked. They had found the weakness. And they had built weapons specifically designed to exploit it. Back in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Jake Morrison watched the battle on the main screen. Green dots representing human ships swarmed around red dots representing the enemy. "Orbital platforms are ready," Lieutenant Amy Grant reported. "Awaiting your order." Jake studied the screen for a moment longer. The Council fleet was in chaos. Their attack wing was being torn apart. The main fleet was starting to move forward to help, but they were confused and disorganized. "Fire," Jake said. 40-8 hidden platforms scattered throughout Earth's orbit came to life. They had been disguised as space junk for years, waiting for this moment. Now their true nature was revealed. Each platform housed a weapon capable of destroying a small moon. Energy beams lanced out across thousands of miles, striking Council ships with devastating force. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were cut in half. Explosions lit up the darkness of space like a new sunrise. On the Liberty, Captain Page allowed himself a small smile. "All ships, press the attack. Do not give them time to recover." The human fleet surged forward. They had trained for this day for years. Every pilot knew their job. Every gunner knew their target. They moved with a coordination that the Council had never faced before. In 3 hours, the battle was over. 400 Council ships had been destroyed. The rest fled beyond Jupiter, retreating in panic. They left behind fields of wreckage and thousands of dead. Humanity had lost only 12 ships, less than 50 pilots. It was a victory beyond anyone's dreams. On Earth, people watched the battle on their screens. When the last alien ship retreated, a cheer went up around the world. In New York and Tokyo, in London and Cairo, in small towns and great cities, people hugged each other and cried with joy. They had been told they would die. They had been told resistance was impossible. And now they were still alive. Secretary General Linda Porter addressed the world that evening. She stood in front of the United Nations building, with the flags of every nation flying behind her. Today, she said, humanity showed the universe who we are. We are not slaves. We are not victims. We are a species that fights for its freedom, no matter the odds. Millions watched her speak. Billions more listened on radios and phones. The Council thought they could break us with threats. They thought we would surrender because we were afraid. But they did not understand something important about humans. We do not give up. We never have. We never will. She paused and looked up at the sky, where the stars were just beginning to appear. To the Galactic Council, I say this. You came to our home. You threatened our children. You tried to make us kneel. Look at what your arrogance has cost you. 400 ships destroyed. Thousands of your soldiers dead. And Earth still stands free. In the command center, Jake Morrison watched the speech on a small screen. Around him, his officers celebrated quietly. They had won the first battle, but they all knew the war was not over. The Council will come back, Patricia said, standing beside him. They have thousands more ships. They cannot afford to let us win. If word spreads that a young species defeated them, other conquered worlds might start to hope. Jake nodded. Then we cannot wait for them to attack again. We have to take the fight to them. We have to show them that Earth is not just a target. We are a threat. He turned to Amy Grant. Get me everything we have on Council space. Their bases. Their shipyards. Their command centers. We are going to plan our next move. Amy looked surprised. Sir, are you talking about attacking them? Going into their territory? That is exactly what I'm talking about, Jake said. They expected easy prey. They got a war. Now, we are going to make sure they regret ever coming to our solar system. Outside, the world celebrated its survival. But in the shadows, humanity was already preparing for the next battle. The Council had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something they did not understand, and they were about to find out just how dangerous humans could be. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, there was a place that did not exist on any map. No satellite could see it. No spy could find it. It was buried under 2 miles of solid rock, and it held the greatest secret in human history. Commander Jake Morrison walked through the main control room of this hidden base. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at glowing screens. They came from 12 different countries, but here they all wore the same uniform. Here, there were no Americans or Russians or Chinese. There were only humans. Status report. Jake called out. Lieutenant Amy Grant looked up from her station. She was young, with short red hair and sharp green eyes. The alien fleet is still holding position near the Mars moon Phobos. No movement toward Earth yet. They are waiting for their deadline. They are confident, Jake said. They think they have already won. Can you blame them? Amy replied. They have 3,000 ships. They have technology that makes ours look like toys. Every species they have ever faced has surrendered. Jake smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who knew a secret. Every species they have faced did not have 60 years to prepare. Every species they have faced did not find a gift from the stars. He walked to a large window that looked down into an enormous underground hangar. Below them, dozens of ships sat waiting. They were sleek and black, with designs that looked nothing like normal human spacecraft. Their hulls were made of metals that did not exist in nature. Their weapons hummed with power that came from sources the Council thought only they understood. Dr. Patricia Simmons joined Jake at the window. She was an older woman with silver hair and kind eyes, but her mind was sharper than anyone Jake had ever met. She had spent 40 years working on Project Prometheus. She knew these ships better than she knew her own children. "The fleet is ready," Patricia said. "All 600 vessels. The crews have been training in secret for years. They know these ships inside and out. And the technology?" Jake asked. "Will it work?" Patricia nodded slowly. When that alien craft crashed in 1947, it changed everything. We learned things that pushed our science forward by centuries. The power systems alone took us 30 years to understand. But we did understand them. And we improved them. She pulled out a small device and projected an image into the air. It showed the Council ships with their shield systems highlighted. "This is their weakness," Patricia explained. "The Council has not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. They have become lazy. Every ship in their fleet uses the exact same shield frequency, the exact same weapons, the exact same designs. It works for them because no one has ever challenged them." "Until now," Jake said. "Until now," Patricia agreed. "We have built weapons specifically designed to break through their shields. Once we fire, they will have no defense. Their shields will be useless." Jake turned back to the control room. "What about the orbital platforms?" Amy Grant answered from her station. "All 48 platforms are online and hidden. They are disguised as space debris. The Council scanned them and saw nothing but old satellites and junk. They have no idea what is really up there." Jake allowed himself a moment of pride. For 60 years, humanity had worked in the shadows. They had hidden their true strength behind a mask of weakness. They had let the universe think they were primitive and helpless. And now, that lie was about to save them all. "Open a channel to Secretary Porter," Jake ordered. A few moments later, Linda Porter's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. "Commander Morrison," she said. "What is your status?" "We are ready, Madam Secretary. The fleet can be activated within 6 hours. The orbital platforms are standing by. All we need is your order." Linda was quiet for a moment. Jake could see the weight of the decision pressing down on her. If they fought and lost, humanity would be destroyed. Every city burned. Every person killed or enslaved. The risk was enormous, but the alternative was worse. "We will not fire first," Linda finally said. "We will give them every chance to leave in peace. But if they attack, we will respond with everything we have. Is that understood?" "Understood, Madam Secretary." The screen went dark. Jake turned to his officers. "You heard her. Begin final preparations. I want every ship ready to launch. I want every weapon charged. When they come for us, we will be waiting." The next few days passed slowly. On the surface, the world held its breath. People gathered in churches and temples. They hugged their families. They looked up at the stars and wondered if they would survive. But beneath the mountains, there was no time for fear. Officers ran simulations. Engineers checked systems. Pilots reviewed attack plans. Everyone knew that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. Jake spent most of his time in the command center, watching the alien fleet. He studied their formations. He memorized their patrol patterns. He looked for weaknesses. On the 6th day, Patricia came to him with news. "We intercepted one of their communications," she said. They are planning to attack ahead of schedule. They want to catch us off guard. Jake felt his heart beat faster. When? Tomorrow morning. They will launch their first wave at dawn. Jake nodded. He had expected something like this. The council had probably grown impatient. Or maybe they had noticed something that made them nervous. Alert all stations, he ordered. Move up our timeline. I want the reserve fleet in position by midnight. Amy Grant hesitated. Sir, that does not give us much time. Some of the ships are still running final checks. Then tell them to check faster. The council is not going to wait for us to be ready. We have to be prepared for anything. The next few hours were chaos. Ships launched from hidden bases all over the solar system. They moved quietly, using stealth systems to avoid detection. One by one, they took their positions behind asteroids and moons. Waiting for the signal dot, Jake watched the map as 600 green dots spread across the display. His fleet. His people. His last hope died at 11 that night. Patricia found him still staring at the screen. You should rest, she said. Tomorrow will be a long day. I cannot sleep, Jake admitted. Too much depends on what happens next. Patricia stood beside him. I remember when I first saw that crashed ship. I was just a young scientist, barely out of school. I did not understand what I was looking at, but I knew it was important. I knew it would change everything. Did you ever think it would come to this? Jake asked. I hoped it would not, Patricia said honestly. I hoped we would make contact with friendly beings. I hoped the universe would be welcoming. She paused. But I prepared for the worst. We all did. Jake looked at the map one more time. In a few hours, the battle would begin. In a few hours, they would find out if 60 years of preparation had been enough. Whatever happens tomorrow, he said quietly, humanity will not go down without a fight. They wanted slaves. They will find warriors. Patricia smiled. That is what I have always loved about our species. We never know when to quit. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. The alien fleet waited. The human fleet hid. And somewhere between them, the future of Earth hung in the balance. Dawn was coming. And with it, war. Ambassador Zethrak stood alone in his quarters, staring at the damage reports. The numbers did not seem real. 400 ships destroyed. Nearly 100,000 soldiers dead. The greatest military defeat the Council had suffered in over 1,000 years, and it had come at the hands of humans. Primitive, barely spacefaring humans who should have surrendered in fear. A chime sounded at his door. High Commander Vrikstal entered without waiting for permission. He was a massive creature, even larger than Zethrak, with scars covering his armored body from centuries of warfare. Ambassador, Vrikstal said, his voice heavy with anger. The Council demands an explanation. They want to know how this happened. How this happened. Zethrak replied bitterly. I will tell you how this happened. We were fools. We looked at these humans and saw weak creatures with simple technology. We did not bother to look deeper. We did not consider that they might be hiding something. Our intelligence was wrong, Vrikstal agreed. We detected 47 ships. They had 600. We believed their weapons were primitive. They cut through our shields like they were nothing. Zethrak turned to face the commander. They knew our weaknesses. They had weapons designed specifically to defeat our defenses. That does not happen by accident. They have been preparing for this. For how long? Decades, perhaps. Maybe longer. Zethrak's compound eyes darkened with something that might have been respect. They knew we were coming. Or at least they knew something would come eventually. So they prepared. They hid their true strength. They let us think they were helpless. And we walked right into their trap. Brixton paced the room, his heavy feet shaking the floor. The council is furious. They are talking about sending the entire fleet. Every ship from every sector. They want to burn Earth to ashes and salt the ground. That would be a mistake, Zithrak said quietly. A mistake. They humiliated us. They must be punished. And what will that punishment cost us? Zethric asked. We lost 400 ships in a few hours. If we send the entire fleet, and they have more surprises waiting, how many more will we lose? Thousands? Tens of thousands? And while we are focused on Earth, what happens to our other territories? Brixton stopped pacing. He had not considered that. The council rules through fear, Zethrak continued. We conquer species because they believe resistance is impossible. But now Earth has shown that resistance is possible. Word will spread. Other conquered species will hear that a young race fought back and won. They will start to wonder if they could do the same. Then, we must silence them quickly, before the story spreads too far. I do not think we can, Zithrak admitted. I think we have already lost that battle. The question now is how we limit the damage. Back on Earth, that same question was being discussed in very different terms. Commander Jake Morrison had not slept in 3 days. He stood in the command center, surrounded by maps and reports and intelligence gathered from captured council communications. The picture they painted was troubling. The council is calling for reinforcements, Lieutenant Amy Grant reported. Ships are being pulled from every sector. They are assembling a fleet near the Tau Ceti system. How many ships? Jake asked. Current estimates say over 2,000. And more are coming. Jake studied the map. Tau Ceti was 12 light years from Earth. The council used it as a regional command center, a place to coordinate their forces in this part of the galaxy. If we wait for them to come to us, we lose our advantage, Jake said. Right now, they are scared and confused. They do not know what else we might have hidden. But if we give them time to regroup and plan, they will find a way to overwhelm us. Dr. Patricia Simmons nodded. He is right. Our biggest weapon was surprise. We cannot rely on that again. They will be prepared next time. They will find ways around our technology. Secretary General Linda Porter joined the meeting through a video link. Her face was tired but determined. What are you proposing, Commander? She asked. Jake took a deep breath. I am proposing that we attack Tau Ceti. We hit them before they finish assembling their fleet. We destroy their command center and show them that we can strike anywhere. The room was silent. An attack on council space. It seemed impossible. Suicidal, even. We would be attacking an enemy on their home ground, Linda said slowly, with a fleet 1/3 the size of theirs. Yes, Jake agreed. But we would have several advantages. First, they do not expect it. No species has ever attacked council territory before. Second, we know their weaknesses now. Our weapons work. Third, and most important, we have something they do not. What is that? We have nothing to lose. Jake's voice was steady. If we fail, we die. If we hide and wait, we die anyway. The council will never leave us alone. They cannot afford to. We have to show them that the cost of fighting us is too high. We have to make them want peace. Linda was quiet for a long moment. Around her, advisors whispered and argued. Some said it was madness. Others said it was their only chance. Finally, Linda spoke. How long would you need to prepare? 2 weeks. We need to repair our damaged ships and plan the attack carefully. If we are going to do this, we need to do it right. Linda looked at Jake through the screen. She saw a man who knew the risks. A man who was willing to die to protect his people. You have your 2 weeks, she said. Make them count. The preparation began immediately. Ships were repaired and upgraded. Crews trained day and night. Intelligence officers studied everything they knew about Tau Ceti, looking for weaknesses. Jake drove his people hard. He knew that mistakes would cost lives. He knew that every detail mattered. But he also knew that they were ready. They had proven themselves once. They would prove themselves again. One night, Patricia found him alone in the hangar, looking at the ships. "Are you scared?" she asked. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "We are about to do something that no one has ever done. We are going to attack the greatest military power in the galaxy in their own territory. Everything could go wrong, but you are still going to do it." "I have to," Jake said. "Those people up there in the council, they think they can do whatever they want. They think they can enslave whole species just because they are stronger. Someone has to show them that strength is not everything." Patricia smiled. "You sound like a revolutionary." "Maybe I am." Jake turned to face her. "Humanity has always fought against tyrants. It is in our blood. We do not accept when someone tells us to kneel. We fight back. We always have. And we always will." Patricia agreed. Dot above them. The stars waited. In 2 weeks, humanity would make its boldest move yet. They would carry the war to the enemy. They would show the galaxy that Earth was not just a survivor. Earth was a force to be feared. The human fleet emerged from the darkness of space like ghosts. 200 ships, moving in perfect formation, appeared at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. They had traveled for days through the cold emptiness between stars, using jump technology that humanity had kept hidden for decades. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the carrier Liberty, watching the tactical display. Ahead of them, the Council's regional command base filled the screen. It was a massive station, surrounded by hundreds of ships. The enemy fleet numbered over 800 vessels. "They outnumber us 4-1, Captain Dennis Page said quietly. "I know," Jake replied. "But we have something they do not." "What is that, sir?" Jake looked at the men and women around him. Pilots who had left their families behind. Engineers who had worked without sleep. Soldiers who knew they might not return home. They were all afraid, but not one of them was running. "We have heart," Jake said. "We have the will to fight for something bigger than ourselves. And we have nothing left to lose." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, this is Commander Morrison. In a few minutes, we will attack the largest enemy base in this sector. We are outnumbered. We are far from home, and many of us will not survive this battle." He paused, letting the words sink in. "But remember why we are here. We are here because the Council gave us a choice between slavery and death. We chose to fight. We are here because every species that ever faced the Council gave up without a struggle. We will show them what happens when someone fights back." His voice grew stronger. "Today, we write a new chapter in the history of the galaxy. Today, humanity announces its presence with fire and courage. Today, we show the universe that we will never be slaves." All ships begin the attack. The fleet surged forward. The Council defenders were caught off guard. They had expected humans to hide behind their planet, to wait for the hammer to fall. They had not imagined that these primitive creatures would dare to attack them in their own space dock by the time they organized a defense. The human ships were already tearing through their formation. Captain Page led the assault with cold precision. "Focus fire on their command ships. Take out their leaders, and the rest will fall apart." Human weapons blazed. Council shields failed. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The darkness of space became a storm of fire and metal. The Council fought back fiercely. Their weapons were still powerful. Their pilots were still trained. Human ships began to take damage. Some fell back. Others were destroyed. Jake watched the battle map with growing tension. They were winning, but the cost was high. 20 human ships gone. Then 30. Then 40. Sir, Amy Grant called from her station aboard a support vessel. The Council reinforcements are arriving. 30 more ships just jumped in. Jake clenched his fists. They were running out of time. They needed to end this quickly. All ships, new target, he ordered. The main station. Hit it with everything we have. The human fleet turned toward the massive command base. It was protected by multiple shield layers and dozens of defensive weapons. Attacking it directly was almost suicide, but the humans attacked. Anyway, energy beams and missiles slammed into the station's shields. At first, nothing happened. The shields held. The station's weapons fired back, destroying more human ships. Then the shields began to flicker. Their generators are overloading, Patricia reported from her position on another vessel. Keep firing. We are almost through. Jake watched as his fleet poured everything they had into the attack. Ships that had used all their missiles rammed themselves into the shield barrier, sacrificing themselves to create openings for others. And then, finally, the shields collapsed. The human fleet opened fire on the unprotected station. Explosions ripped through its structure. Entire sections broke apart and drifted into space. The Council's regional command center, the heart of their power in this part of the galaxy, was dying. Inside the station, panic spread. Officers scrambled to escape. Commanders shouted orders that no one followed. Ambassador HFY, who had come to witness what he thought would be an easy victory, stared at the destruction in disbelief. "This cannot be happening," he whispered. "This cannot be." But it was happening, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it finally ended, the Council's command station was a field of debris. 60% of their fleet had been destroyed. The survivors fled into deep space, carrying stories of the terrible warriors from Earth. Humanity had lost 62 ships, over 2,000 lives. But they had won. Jake Morrison broadcast a message through the captured communication systems. His voice reached every corner of Council space. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of Earth," he said. "2 weeks ago, your Council demanded our surrender. Today, we stand in the heart of your territory. We have destroyed your fleet and burned your station. We did not want this war. We only wanted to live in peace. But we will not be enslaved. We will not be conquered. And we will not stop until you understand that humanity does not kneel." The message spread across the galaxy. Species that had lived under Council rule for thousands of years heard it. They whispered to each other in secret. If the humans could resist, if they could win, then maybe there was hope for everyone. 3 months later, Ambassador HFY returned to Earth. This time, he did not come with a fleet. He came with a single ship, carrying only diplomats. Secretary General Linda Porter met him in Geneva. The conference room was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth. They watched as the alien ambassador approached. "The Council wishes to negotiate," HFY said. His voice was quiet, defeated. "We propose full recognition of Earth's independence. We offer membership in the Council as an equal partner." Linda studied him carefully. "You demanded our surrender. You called us primitive. You threatened to destroy our cities and enslave our children. And now you want to be partners. We were wrong about your species," HFY admitted. "We saw what we wanted to see. We did not understand what you truly were. And what are we?" HFY was silent for a moment. "You are survivors," he finally said. "You are fighters. You are something we have not seen in a very long time. Something dangerous. Something that could change everything." Linda nodded slowly. "We will accept your offer of partnership. But we have conditions. Name them." Every species currently designated as servants will be offered freedom. Immediately. Any who wish to leave Council space may do so without punishment. The practice of forced conquest ends now. Zethrak's eyes widened. That would change everything. The entire structure of Council society. Then perhaps it is time for change, Linda replied. Humanity did not fight for itself alone. We fought for the idea that no species should be enslaved, that every being deserves the chance to be free. If you want peace with us, you will have to accept that. The negotiations lasted for weeks. In the end, the Council agreed to every demand. They had no choice. They had seen what humanity could do. They knew that continued war would only bring more destruction. On the day the treaty was signed, Commander Jake Morrison stood on an observation deck above Earth. The planet spread out below him, blue and green and beautiful. Beside him, Patricia and Amy and Dennis and all the others who had fought so hard watched the sunrise. We did it, Patricia said softly. We actually did it. We survived, Jake agreed. We won. But this is just the beginning. The beginning of what? Jake looked up at the stars. Out there, billions of beings were waking up to a new reality. A galaxy where the Council was no longer all-powerful. A galaxy where a small blue planet had changed the rules. The beginning of something new, he said. The old ways are ending. Empires built on slavery and conquest are going to fall. New alliances will form. New challenges will come. But whatever happens next, we will face it together. Amy smiled. Sounds like a lot of work. It will be, Jake admitted. But we are humans. We have been building new worlds since we first walked out of caves. We will figure it out. Below them, Earth turned peacefully on its axis. Children played in parks. People went to work. Life continued as it always had, but everything had changed. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. They had fought the greatest power in the galaxy and won. They had shown that courage and determination could overcome any odds. And somewhere out there, among the distant stars, other species were beginning to hope. Beginning to dream of freedom. Beginning to believe that a better future was possible. The Galactic Council had demanded humanity's surrender. Earth had just laughed, and in that laughter, a new age was born. The desert sun was hot and bright when the ship came down from the sky. It was bigger than anything Danny Cole had ever seen. The shadow it made covered the sand for miles. Danny stood with his rifle across his chest and watched the huge metal thing land. The ground shook under his boots. Sand flew everywhere, but he did not move. Danny was 32 years old. He had been a Marine for 12 years. He had fought in wars on the other side of the world. He had seen friends die. He had been shot twice. None of that scared him anymore. And this big ship from space was not going to scare him either. There were other people at the landing zone. Generals in clean uniforms. Diplomats in expensive suits. Scientists with tablets and cameras. They all stood behind Danny and his squad of young Marines. When the ship opened and the aliens came out, most of them took a step back. Danny stayed where he was. The aliens were tall. The leader was almost 8 feet high. His skin looked like silver metal. He had 4 arms. His eyes were gold, and they did not blink. He wore armor that glowed with a soft blue light. Behind him, soldiers in the same kind of armor carried weapons that made strange humming sounds. The alien leader walked toward the humans. His feet made heavy sounds on the sand. He looked at the generals. He looked at the diplomats. Then his gold eyes found Danny. "I am Commander Zethrak of the Galactic Dominion," the alien said. His voice came from a small device on his chest. "I have come to give your world a choice. You will join the Dominion. You will serve us. Or you will be destroyed." Nobody spoke. Danny could hear the wind moving sand across the desert. He could hear his own heart beating. But he was not afraid. General Patricia Vance stepped forward. She was a tough woman with gray hair and a strong voice. "We would like to discuss terms," she said. "Perhaps we can find a peaceful solution." Zethrak did not look at her. He kept his eyes on Danny. "I do not talk to politicians," he said. "I talk to warriors. You." He pointed one of his 4 hands at Danny. "You are a soldier. I can see it in how you stand. I can see it in your eyes." Danny nodded slowly. "That's right. Then you understand what I am. You can feel my power. You know that your weapons cannot hurt me. You know that your people cannot win against the Dominion." "I know you're big," Danny said. "I know you've got a nice ship." The alien's mouthparts clicked together. It might have been a laugh. It might have been anger. "I have killed thousands of beings like you. I have broken entire worlds. Species that were old when your kind still lived in caves have fallen before me." He stepped closer to Danny. Now they were only a few feet apart. "My advice to you, human soldier, is simple. Kneel. Bow your head. Accept the Dominion's rule. If you do this, your people will live. They will serve, but they will live." Danny looked up at the alien commander. He thought about his mother back in Ohio. He thought about his sister and her 2 kids. He thought about the young Marine standing behind him, barely out of training, trying hard not to shake. He thought about everything he had ever fought for. And then Danny smiled. It was not a mean smile. It was not a crazy smile. It was the kind of smile a man gives when he knows exactly who he is and what he believes. "I appreciate the advice," Danny said, "but I think I'll stay standing." For a long moment, nothing happened. The wind blew. The sun beat down. Zethrak stared at Danny with those gold eyes that had seen 100 worlds burn. "You are either very brave or very stupid," the alien said. "Probably both," Danny admitted. "But where I come from, we don't kneel to anyone." Zethrak made that clicking sound again. "Your world has 30 of your days. 30 days to decide. Surrender and serve, or fight and die." He turned and walked back toward his ship. His soldiers followed. "I hope I see you again, human. You are interesting." The ship took off a few minutes later. It rose into the sky and disappeared among the clouds. When it was gone, everyone started talking at once. The diplomats were scared. The generals were giving orders. The scientists were looking at their readings and shaking their heads. But Danny just stood there, watching the sky. One of the young Marines came up beside him. His name was Lucas Webb, and he was only 19. His hands were shaking. "Sergeant Cole? Are we going to be okay?" Danny looked at the kid. He remembered being that young. He remembered being that scared. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I know one thing. We're not going to kneel. Not today. Not ever." That night, Danny sat alone in his tent at the base. He could hear the other soldiers talking outside. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some were calling their families to say goodbye. Danny pulled out his phone and looked at a picture of his sister and her kids. The little girl was 5. The boy was 7. They were smiling and waving at the camera. He thought about what Zethrak had said. 30 days. 30 days until a fleet from another galaxy came to take everything humanity had ever built. 30 days until weapons from the stars burned cities to ash. 30 days until the end of the world. But Danny had been in bad situations before. He had been outnumbered before. He had faced enemies who seemed impossible to beat before. And he was still here. He put the phone away and laid down on his cot. Tomorrow there would be meetings and planning and fear. Tomorrow the whole world would wake up knowing that they were not alone in the universe. And that the universe was not friendly. But tonight, Danny closed his eyes and slept well. because he had looked into the eyes of a monster and refused to bow. He had smiled at death and meant it, and somewhere deep in his heart, he knew that was just the beginning. The war for Earth had started, and Danny Cole was ready to fight.